Hi, I'm John Blake, co-chair of Montana Equality Now.
Hi, I'm Ray Davis, co-chair and community organizer for Montana Equality Now.
Marching in Montana will be a video log to try to bring you the things that we think are relevant to your life in relation to the LGBT community, both locally and nationally.
As well as actionable items for the activist inside of you.
So our first segment is going to be steps forward and steps back. What we're going to try to do is tell you in local and national news what things we think have moved us forward and what things we think need some work.
First up, with a huge step forward on the local scene here, a Montana Supreme Court case that upheld the idea that families have many different definitions, the defining characteristics of which is love and nurturance. The Kolstad versus Monoyaki case allowed a lesbian woman not biologically related to two children adopted by her ex-partner joint custody to the children.
Ford Montana has announced that after floating a number of proposals, their gay agenda proposal is won out among their members and interested community leaders. This is great news, as we have yet another allied organization actively working to support the LGBTQQIA community to gain equality in the state of Montana.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
Another major step forward on the local scene, Bryce Bennett, a friend, colleague, and a longtime LGBT rights activist, has announced that he is running for House District 92. If elected, Bryce would become the third openly LGBT legislator in the state of Montana.
Go Bryce!
Drop it like it's hot.
For steps forward national, in Washington state by a narrow margin of 52-5 to 47-5, Referendum 71 passed, allowing a domestic partnership registry that confers some protections of marriage.
Some is still not all. Another major step forward on the national level, the District of Columbia Council approved same-sex marriage, which is subject to review by the U.S. Congress. Same-sex marriage in our nation's capital is one of our major victories, one we hope to share here in the state of Montana soon.
The federal government finally passed a Hate Crimes Act in the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Act. This act includes LGBT people and protected groups recognized by the federal government under hate crimes. It also provides funding and resources in prosecution of hate crimes in states that recognize LGBT people in statewide hate crimes protections, presuming they request assistance. The federal government also reserves the right of traditional jurisdiction, so if it occurs in 2 or more states, crosses a state border, or is in the national interest.
So, what does that mean for me here in the state of Montana, a state which has not defined LGBT population as a part of a protected group?
We're still fucked.
Another major step forward on the national front, the Salt Lake City Council unanimously passed an anti-discrimination ordinance which includes the LGBT community in its protections. This was supported by the Mormon Church, which highlights the power of social discourse and personal engagement with faith-based communities in LGBT rights struggles. You may remember this comes right on the heels of the Mormon Church's open and broad support of the Proposition 8 in California. Another major step forward for 2009 was the National Equality March in October, where John and I had the opportunity to march with over 200,000 people, where we descended upon DC to let America know that inequality is not okay with us.
In Missoula, Montana, Montana Equality Now and candidate for House District 92, Bryce Bennett, joined in this historic mass protest. In Steps Back Local, a blast motion in the Montana House of Representatives to try to get the Domestic Partnerships Bill out of committee failed, despite eloquent statements in support by leading Democrats. Thank you, Frankie Wilmer.
Another major step back on the local level is the introduction of Constitutional Initiative 102. CI 102 was introduced, which would redefine a person at the time of conception. This is a ridiculous intrusion on rights to privacy as well as women's rights in the state of Montana.
In Steps Back National, marriage rights in Maine were submitted to popular vote on the heels of the National Equality March, and the results left this activist reeling. No gay marriage in Maine, at least not until we were able to convince the majority of the voting public of our humanity.
This year also brought the closure of a few LGBT news publications, after the owners, Window Media and Unite Media, were not able to escape the results of the economic downturn. Among them was the DC favorite, Washington Blade.
Also in DC, the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Washington tried to use the threat of a reduction of services and support for social service programs for homeless, adoption, and healthcare to influence the DC Council vote on marriage. Though they failed, the idea of pulling services in response to LGBT marriage violates Christian values of charity for the less fortunate.
More from our favorite crusaders. This year in Texas, the Salvation Army asked for green cards or other forms of identification to ensure recipients of donated Toys for Tots were legal immigrants. With this church's history of anti-LGBT rights activism, including their leadership in the anti-pride movement last year in Kalispell, such a move is only surprising in that it targets children.
Doesn't everyone deserve Christmas?
Finally, one of the most repulsive things I've heard this year, with a major international step back, Uganda is considering a bill that would make the crime for homosexuality the death penalty. More repulsive than that is the amount of time it took for U.S. legislators to issue public statements in opposition, as well as those Christian leaders here in the States who have given tacit support to the bill.
This has been Montana Equality Now is marching in Montana.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.